The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, staff, management, or advertisers.
Coming to you on stations coast to coast, it's the Makin It radio show with your hosts, self-made millionaires Tommy Runfola and Todd Williams. Tommy Runfola, founder and president of one of America's top technology, consumer products, and media companies. Author, investor, and National Entrepreneur of the Year nominee. Tommy has worked with 5 U.S. presidents and vice presidents. Todd Williams, founder and CEO of Inc. Magazine's 2013 fastest growing food and beverage companies in America. A former NBC TV personality and Harvard Business alumnus. Makin It is the source for success stories and in-the-trenches information that outlines a roadmap to the American dream. And now, here's Tommy and Todd.
Welcome. This is Tommy and Todd making it coast to coast. Thank you for joining us, America, and we're so glad you're here. So what's going on, big guy?
Just looking forward to another great show.
We're
piling them up. Piling them up.
I'm looking right at Brittany's beautiful shoes. That girl has so many shoes. Yes. I'm telling you, you're gonna shut down our website with those shoes.
Yes. I'm gonna drive you to the poorhouse apparently if your wife keeps buying all the shoes.
And that's the second problem I need to speak with you about.
Tommy's got to keep making it because his wife likes to buy shoes after I buy them.
Yes, she does.
Yeah,
she loves it. Yes,
shoes.
So what's going on today, Brittany?
All right, great lineup today. First up on Showbuzz, we're discussing the CNBC show Restaurant Startup. We'll get to that in a minute. Then my danger report. I'm not going to tell you which company I'm profiling.
I hope it's not mine.
We like it.
I hope it's Todd's, not mine.
No.
Luckily, you guys are not in danger this year.
Okay, thank you.
And then the Fix, you two are discussing True Religion.
Ooh.
And giving them some advice, business advice.
Is that about religion or is it about genes?
I don't know. You're going to have to stay tuned for that part.
All right, we'll figure it out.
And then on our deep dive segment, we're discussing why is Amazon so successful? Like, let me count the ways. Then on Making It or Breaking It, we're wrapping up by going old school, discussing handwritten letters. Yeah, all right.
Handwritten letters.
Nice pause there on that. Must have meaning
Emphatically,
to you.
exactly.
Making it Showbuzz.
First up, Showbuzz, we're discussing the show on CNBC Restaurant Startup. Now, this one, first when I looked at it, because I haven't seen it, I had not seen it initially, it seemed to me just like every other restaurant show. So there's so many different ones out there. Then when I actually read more of the plot behind it and started watching the show, I realized that the actual way that they're competing and what they get out of it is much, much different.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically there's teams, they're competing, one of them wins, then the winner gets $7,500, a location, and they get various helpers to refine their restaurant ideas, including logo design, decor, and menu, and turn the concept into a functioning restaurant in 36 hours.
Right.
That's a day and a half.
Yes.
Well, the difference of this restaurant show is that they make you prove that you can do it before they actually
Really
let
invest.
You win.
Right.
Really invest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of like a Shark Tank for restaurants only, because if you look at Shark Tank, and we've been interviewing several of the entrepreneurs from Shark Tank, and they don't do many restaurants on there.
Right.
And so what they do is they say, okay, they give you, on this show, Restaurant Startup, they give you the keys to a LA restaurant, and they also give you 36 hours to show your stuff and $7,500. And then you have to prove that you can make a pop-up restaurant and make it successful in 3 days.
Right.
So it's
And if
kind
you
of
have the
like
stuff,
Shark
they
Tank.
give you a
meets-
consultant.
So it's kind of like Shark Tank meets Cupcake Wars,
Right.
where they actually judge your execution,
Absolutely.
and how well you're able to execute, not just your theoretical idea.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more real world.
Yeah, I watched several episodes, and I was really impressed with the judges, with the concept, and with the contestants that came on. The first one I watched was called S&R Eatery, and it was sort of a food truck operation, and there was a Puerto Rican, an Italian lady, And of course, they had Puerto Rican and Italian served with Southern charm because one of them was from the South. And it was really, a unique kind of concept. But the judges looked at it and they thought it lacked focus and wasn't that appealing as an investment. So they passed on them. Then the next one I saw was really interesting, Todd. You would have liked this. It was a husband and wife. And they had a food court concept that they were trying to brand into a national franchise.
Right.
And the owners had that entrepreneurial spirit. He was the primary chef and so on. But they didn't have a lot of experience in branding and building the concept and so on. And even though the food was outstanding, there were some real shortcomings in the business.
Right.
And when they give you this 24 hours to start a business and get it rolling, I mean, you have to hire employees, you have to have manuals and all of the things that you need to
Right.
start a business, recipe book and so on. You have to have the food costs down, and it was a real challenge for these folks.
Right. Yeah. I think, when I think of the restaurant business, me personally, that's a hard business.
I think it is too.
I mean, I love a good restaurant and, going to one. But running it, I mean, it's a combination of theatrical presentation, it's entertainment. It's also got just, hardcore, business work in it.
Right.
Everything else that is involved in the business. And then there's typically slim margins on it. And if you want to have a good restaurant, you usually have to have a good piece of real estate, which isn't cheap.
Right.
Unless you're some way, you can make some kind of narrative up where you get people to come to a lower rent district to your great restaurant.
In this particular concept, they talked about the rent, and it was 15% of the take. So 15 cents of every dollar was going to the landlord.
Right.
And you had food costs on top of
Well,
that.
that's not unusual. I mean,
it is.
Right.
In a mall, that's
The
what
rent's
you
usually
pay.
the biggest,
of course.
beside table.
But the standardization and the systems that have to be created, and the training that goes in. Remember, you're bringing in employees, and they have to learn in 24 hours your concept, your recipes, everything, how you want to serve customers.
Right.
And it's quite a challenge for these people.
Well, and another thing that we go back to time and time again on the show, which is, what constitutes a really great business idea that's, seemingly unique and successful. I think it's so interesting in the restaurant business. I mean, everybody eats. Everybody's essentially their own food critic. Everybody has experience in that area. Everybody has their own opinion. So essentially, you're trying to take something that's very you're trying to come up with an idea that a lot of people are going to like. You want something that's very middle of the road, that has an appeal to a wide range and variety and, of course, amount of customers. But at the same time, you have to have some USP basically on it. What's your flavor? What's different? Why are they going to choose you over someone else? And in the area of food, I think it's so interesting because as much as people say they want something new, a lot of times they go back to the same pizza and burger, give me the plain turkey sandwich. I mean, people are pretty plain on food. So I think it's a really interesting example in business and study in business to look at how can you make something feel new and seem new and give it the feeling of a new experience, but still delivering kind of the same old staples that people know and love and are going to predictably buy.
Well, one of the things that everybody finds out in every small business, it's more than about just your product. If you're in the restaurant business, of course, your food is important, but it's about training people. It's about having the proper trade dress for your business. It's about projections. It's about money. It's about consistency. And all of these things go into creating a business that's sustainable and brandable and scalable. So it's, again, are you in business or are you good at creating food?
Right.
You have to have them both.
Right.
This requires to be successful in restaurant business requires, one, you have to have a passion about the particular food that you're making.
Yeah.
And also about serving people.
Right.
And I think that a lot of restaurants, they have people that a lot of people go in the restaurant business, they have a passion about food and making food
Yes.
and serving people, and then they don't really have a passion about the business side.
Right.
And so then it goes down.
Yes.
Some people go in it because they think there's a lot of money can be made in a restaurant because they see restaurants are packed and all the people paying for their expensive dinners, and they don't have any passion about the food, and then that falls short. Mm-hmm. And then there's this pressure that, on this show, a lot of times they say like, so what's special about your food? And what's
Exactly.
special? And it kind of puts you in a feeling, a pressure, a feeling of that you have to come up with something totally new,
Right.
totally different, or you're not going to make it. And like what Brittany was saying, like I couldn't go on one of these shows personally because I would come up with something like Wahlburgers, like Mark Wahlberg did, like just a gourmet burger.
Wait, I
Yes.
thought you were going to say
Something
you
like
couldn't go on this show because you barely know how to make peanut butter and jelly for yourself.
No.
That would have been
I
true.
That also.
I can come up with ideas. I wouldn't make it. But they, I just think that the great ideas are in what people already want,
Right.
especially with food,
Right.
and just innovating on them a little
Just
bit.
a slight twist.
And a lot of these, food people, they want to just make something that's so out of the box.
Right.
And a lot of times people don't understand unless you're a literal food connoisseur.
Well, that was the problem with one of the episodes I watched. The guy was a great chef, and what he didn't quite get is that they didn't want him in the kitchen in this experiment. They were calling him out because they wanted to make sure that the ideas and the recipes and everything that he was doing was scalable, and that they could he could in fact be absent from the business and still make it go. He was seeking $250,000, by the way, to start a third location of his business. And they ended up making what they called an emotional investment in this business. When you followed it through to
The worst kind.
it is, and they said that, and they made him buy out one of his partners that he owed $120,000 to, and it said later in the show, they have a due diligence period with these businesses, and it said later in the show that they didn't make it through the due diligence period, that
Right.
the investors thought it was too big a risk.
Yes. Another thing I noticed that that's important for businesses, especially nowadays, is that your chef has to be a celebrity.
Yes.
That's very true.
When I was
It's almost like a headliner on a movie.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, traveling through these big cities, you look up on billboards, and I'm saying, who is that person on a huge billboard? And it's a chef at one of the restaurants. They're promoting that chef like, come to this hotel or restaurant because we have this famous chef. So it's a big deal to be a chef at a big time restaurant.
I saw a show last night. It was about Portland, Oregon, and they talked about certain restaurants where they basically had celebrity chefs, and they did these unusual things with food, and it was all about the chef, as you said.
Yes. And so that means that not only, does owning a restaurant mean you have to have great food and stellar service, but you also have to build up your own personal brand name,
Right.
to make people want to come to your restaurant.
Right.
Right.
And it's just that the restaurant business is as competitive as ever, and you really have to know what you're doing.
Well, I knew Dave Thomas when he started Wendy's
Right.
back in the day, and he was not what you would call a chef.
No.
But he understood fast food. He had been under Colonel Sanders.
Right.
And the business part of it, particularly in fast food, is a big part of the concept.
Right. Well, yeah, in fast food, you're really talking about, the business side more so.
Systems and so on. Yes.
And in restaurants, you have to get in all these details, about the customer experience and food quality and food presentation. It's so much deeper. But I think Restaurant Startup it's a good show. It's like Shark Tank for the restaurant entrepreneur.
It was a great show.
So it's a good watch. You're listening to Making It with Tommy and Todd, Coast to Coast. We'll be right back.